back, everyone. This is the Burgundy and Gold Review podcast. My name is Jess. You can find me on Instagram at the account httr.nation with my co-host Sam of WSH Football 365, also on Instagram. And Washington is in a bit of a skid here on a 2-game losing streak after that Falcons victory, dropping games to the Falcons and Chiefs. And it doesn't look that much hopeful going into this weekend. They're traveling up to Green Bay, Wisconsin to play the Green Bay Packers. We're currently on a 5-game win streak since their embarrassing Week 1 loss. In Green Bay, they don't match up great, or Washington does not match up great with Green Bay. There's some stuff we'll discuss about where we think we might get the edge, where we're concerned. But before we get into all that, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. And this episode is brought to you by Winview Games, the nation's sports prediction leader and home for pregame and live Washington football prop contest. I know all of you live and breathe Washington football, so if you want to put that knowledge to the test, download Winview right now. Winview.tv/Burgundy Gold. That's Winview.tv/Burgundy Gold. Play against other people in free or real money contests. You can also find the link in our Instagram podcast bio at the BNG Review. Play your first $20 risk-free on Winview with Washington football contest every day from now until the end of the season. I know this app is for all you. And so I feel like the 2010s for when Washington has played Green Bay, it's been pretty competitive. I can think of some good games, 2018, Alex Smith, defensive line really banging up on Rodgers, that 2016 Sunday night game. But in recent memory, it feels like things have kind of shifted back into the Packers' favor. I'm not feeling great about this weekend, but what are your initial thoughts about where we stand?
I think you go into a game that's going to be with the Packers, you have a team that can score just as fast as the Chiefs, but has a better defense. So I don't see how anybody can feel good going into this game, given the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season.
I don't think the Packers they're a very good team. I don't think they're as dominant as they were last year. However, Washington has one of the worst secondaries in football right now, one of the worst defenses in football, and they're going against a 3-headed monster of Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. Given there's not much outside the Packers' offense beyond those three, but one might argue, and one can clearly see that those three clearly get the job done in Green Bay. Before we get into the matchups and observations, what we're looking at, whatnot, Washington is pretty banged up this week. They had a very extensive injury report on Tuesday's practice, but we've gotten the game stats for a couple of guys. Curtis Samuel, Brandon Sheriff, Sam Cosmi, and Cam Sims all out. Samuel he's only played 1.5 games so far, and not even that. And that groin hamstring still bugging him. Cam Sims still has that lingering hamstring. Sheriff, I thought we could get a return from him, but he's out with that knee, and Sam Cosmi's ankle still bugging him. I'd expect they shut him down until after the bye week.
The injuries on the offensive line, while unfortunate, especially with Sam Cosmi and Brandon Sheriff, don't concern me as much as the others, given how well the backups have played in replacement in regards to Corn Lucas and Wes Schweitzer. It's just a continuous thing for Curtis Samuel. Hopefully get Cam Sims back next week or possibly the week or after the bye week, rather. But, yeah, pretty banged up and not something you want to see headed into a really tough game against the Packers. And thankfully, maybe some of these injuries can be taken care of after next week and through the bye.
I agree with the offensive line injuries. I mean, the O-line still, given the Chiefs' defensive line was already not great to begin with, but then also did not have Chris Jones for the last matchup. But offensive line looks solid to me. Not, you want to have your starters out there, your best guys. Cosmi, Sheriff obviously not playing. That's unfortunate, but I feel like the position group will be okay. However, as you mentioned, there's really Antonio Gibson's playing with a stress fracture in his shin. I assume he's going to play, but he's going to be banged up, not 100%. No one else in the wide receiver or really tight end room, minus Ricky Seals-Jones, and Terry McLaurin, that goes without saying, has really done anything of giving you confidence in them. I mean, Diami Brown has been, not to knock him too much, but he has been a disappointment, at least with preseason expectations and offseason expectations, what we were led to believe he could do immediately day one. He doesn't even have 100 yards yet. Adam Humphries, very kind of fills the stat sheet, but doesn't make much of an impact. John Bates just had his first reception, and it was for 7 yards last week. So I'm not feeling great about the offensive cast right now. I think having Cam Sims out hurts more than, I mean, he wasn't getting a ton of snaps, but I feel like that hurts more than we give it credit. I mean, gonna need Terry and Ricky Seals-Jones to step up again. Hopefully we get a healthy game out of Gibson, but we'll see.
I mean, I think outside of Terry, the most productive player on the offense this year has been J.D. McKissick by a long shot. And so I think we need a big game from him too, because he seems to be able to carry the load when the team needs him the most.
For the Packers injury report, we unfortunately do not have their game statuses yet. Those have not been released by the team. However, just looking at, some of their key guys, trends of how they practice this week. Preston Smith, former Washington Redskins linebacker, and Packers starting center Josh Myers have both not practiced at all this week. Not sure, if they're kind of just Packers are taking it easy on them or whatnot, but two guys to watch there. And two other starters that are banged up in the Green Bay secondary, Kevin King and Darnell Savage, both not really practicing that much, limited participants this week. And have to remember, Jair Alexander, one of the top 3 cornerbacks in football, is out for the Packers for this matchup. They're also without star left tackle David Bakhtiari, who has not played yet this season, will not be playing this weekend. So arguably arguably two of the best players at their respective positions league-wide, and Bakhtiari at left tackle and Alexander at cornerback, not playing for the Packers.
And Washington has to take advantage of those situations. They have to build a little bit of steam, I guess, on what little bit they showed defensively in the first half against the Chiefs, and take advantage of where the weaknesses are in these other teams. And because that's what good teams do. And Washington really has yet to do that this year. And especially, or even though they have talent at the positions that they should be taking advantage with, like they haven't been able to do that. So they're going to have to do that in Lambeau if they want any chance to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Looking at some observations we'll have our eyes on. Sam, I'll let you take over this one in a second. I know you're probably itching to talk about this. Get in your final farewell to an age-old friend in Dustin Hopkins, should we say. But Chris Blewitt started, well, didn't sound great saying it out loud for the first time, but Chris Blewitt, new starting kicker for the Washington football team. The Dustin Hopkins era is over after six years since 2015. Long tenured kicker is now cut from the roster, not even just injured, just team was done with him. And Chris Blewitt, former Pitt Panther, pretty good college player, will be making his NFL debut this weekend in Green Bay. I'll be watching to see how the kicking game looks. And, midseason kicking changes usually do not turn out for the best, but people have been calling for Hopkins for even way past 2020 and 2021, almost since that London game, it feels like. But Dustin Hopkins is gone. We got a new kicker. Sam, all you.
I've had my gripes about Dustin Hopkins over the years, and first and foremost, I hope that he succeeds somewhere else, or just has success in whatever he does, because at the end of the day, this is just a game, and Dustin's a really nice guy. He's had a lot of things happen to him in the past couple months, so with everything being said, I know I say a lot of harsh words about him, but it's just football. That being said, it was time, and I think it was a little bit long overdue, and the timing was a little bit curious in my opinion, especially coming after a blowout loss. It kind of made a lot of the fan base seem like, hey, this was something to say, hey, I'm trying to turn the locker room around. I'm showing everybody that, I'm holding everyone accountable for their actions or miscues, whatever you want to call it. I'm cutting the kicker and moving Landon Collins to linebacker. I could agree with that a little bit, but also it's not like Dustin hasn't been struggling for the past however long. He's missed multiple extra points this year. We're not even halfway through the season. I've seen so many people say, oh, he has the same numbers as Graham Gano. All right, but is Graham Gano missing extra points? Is Graham Gano missing these kicks in pivotal situations? If whatever his name is for the for the Giants. If he hadn't jumped off sides, that's another missed kick, and that's a loss for the team. Like, I'm not trying to come down on Dustin Hopkins any more than I already have, and I've said enough about him in podcasts many moons ago. But I think it was time, and you already know what you have from him. So why not give another guy a shot? And I know signing somebody named Chris Blewitt when other guys like Josh Lambo, former All-Pro, are out on the market seems a little weird, but practice report says he's never missed a kick in practice. That means absolutely nothing to me. I don't want him to miss a kick in a game, so I'll have to see it. But I definitely, in my opinion, it was time to give someone else a shot. But I wish Dustin Hopkins all the best.
Two quick comments I want to toss in on Hopkins before we move on. One, I'm interested to see if another team might pick him up at some point in the season. I know national perspective of him was a bit better than local, and it felt like fans might have perceived him as worse than he actually was. Not that he was a great kicker by any means, but he kind of had the stigma of a walking missed kick on him, which wasn't entirely true. He was inconsistent and did not necessarily inspire confidence, but I don't think he was as bad as his perception is. So I will be interested to see if another team snags him or if he's just hanging around for a while in the free agent market. We shall see on that. But with the Chris Blewitt selection, or at least having him as your replacement kicker, what kind of confused. What kind of confused me was he was on the practice squad for about a week or two, and then the team cut him. So they let him go off the practice squad. And then after Sunday's game, so on Monday, they brought him back in the practice squad. And then on Tuesday, they cut Hopkins, or maybe it was Wednesday. Excuse me if I'm missing it. But regardless, he was cut off the practice squad, then off the team's practice squad for this past weekend, then brought back earlier on in the week, and then promoted after Hopkins was cut. So that just kind of seems like a weird sequence of events. I mean, am I off on that? Like, maybe I'm just like reading too much into practice squad moves, but like, if you had this much confidence in the guy as your replacement kicker for Hopkins, then why do you get the boot off the practice squad to begin with?
I mean, you can still evaluate a player. Obviously, I don't think anyone out there was rushing to sign Chris Blewitt off of the shelves at Home Depot where he was working before the Washington football team brought him in. So you make a good point there, and I'm sure there's some validity to it, if not full validity or less. But maybe they looked at it like, hey, we can get this guy, see what he's got, release him, use him as a chess piece if we need to, elevate other players due to injuries in other departments, bring him back if we really need to. For all we know, the Chiefs game where he had another miss in the Chiefs game, that could have been the last straw. Like, they could have been evaluating, saying like, hey, like, this is our threshold. And once he missed that kick, they already knew like what Blewitt could have done in practice, brought him back, yada, yada, yada. The rest is history. It is interesting timing, like I said, and it does seem like a little bit of a Band-Aid slap or scapegoat type of situation. But also, like, I feel like it should have happened a long time ago. So, like, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it, to be honest. But like, it'll be interesting to see. I hope this guy comes out. He's the next freaking Adam Vinatieri. But another Washington quest for a player at a position that it seems to be a long standing search.
I agree with the Band-Aid slap terminology you just used there. Not to really be pessimistic on the matter, but it just kind of feels like, Rivera's been taking a lot of heat from media and fans, especially the last couple of weeks. Lack of confidence in him has definitely ramped up. At least to me, it feels that way. And it's kind of, well, here's that kicker change that you guys are all complaining about. And here's Landon Collins at linebacker, despite him playing most of the snaps at linebacker already throughout the whole season. Like, so that bit of information there is irrelevant to me because he's already been playing a majority of his snaps at linebacker. He hasn't been good. It's like, it doesn't make a difference to me if he's a linebacker, defensive end, defensive tackle, safety, cornerback, if he's not playing good. And I mean, we're not, spending 20 minutes talking about how Landon Collins is a liability on the defense at this point. But yeah, I know I agree with what you just said there, at least, or what you implied could be, with just kind of, here's a, you're getting on me for not making fixes or adjustments on defense or offense, pulling guys when they need to be pulled. well, here's something.
Here's the thing. I can't speak for you or everyone else, but I have a feeling that you may feel similar to how I feel. I had no confidence that Dustin Hopkins would make an extra point every time that he tried on the field. And I feel like if you're at that point with your kicker, it's time to give someone else a shot. So I'm glad that they did, but the way that they went about it, I just wish it would have happened from the beginning of the season, honestly. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, this last bit here, it spoke volumes when that 4th and 10 in the Saints game, I believe it would have been a 53 or 55-yard field goal when Rivera elected to go for it on 4th and 10, as opposed to kicking the field goal. 4th and 10 was not converted. And, I mean, it kind of showed you. I mean, Rivera had always said had faith in Hopkins. You know, he's our kicker, but actions obviously speak louder than words. And it appeared that was mostly coach speak, as when the chips were down, he was not having Hopkins attempt 50-plus yard field goals.
Right.
Moving on to a new observation, at least for enough of the kicker saga in Washington, looking at factors for this weekend's game. Antonio Gibson in the run game. I mean, he's obviously been dealing with this stress fracture in his shin. It is, you know, I can't speak to the pain level of it. Never had an injury or something close to that. But it seems like he's not himself recently, at least running. He's gotten banged up in each game since the injury has been announced. I mean, Atlanta game, he got banged up. New Orleans, he might have definitely got banged up in the Chiefs game for that one snap, or at least that one drive. But, like, the run game is not – I mean, it's been solid averages, but it hasn't felt like the run game has been a crucial part of the offense as of late, like it was especially when we opened up against Los Angeles. So I'm interested to see how Antonio Gibson and the run game will be utilized in this game, because I assume Gibson's playing. You know, we didn't get an out status for him. I think he's pushing through the injury, but run game has not really been there.
Look, shin splints suck, and it happened when you're running like at high impact at short distances. And obviously, as a running back, taking like that wear and tear on your legs, like it sucks, but it's something from what I understand can be played through. You know me, like I've said all year, run the damn ball, run the damn ball, run the damn ball. And I'm sure that his injury status has been a reason why they can't as much. And then you don't really have guys behind him that are majorly effective in the running game with Jarrett Patterson and JD McKissick. McKissick more suited to the pass game. But I'd like to see them lean on that a little bit more. Like I've said, it'll be interesting if they can get that back into the game plan, because it seems at times like they try to lean on Heineke's arm too much, and quite frankly, Heineke doesn't have an arm that I think they should be comfortable leaning on.
Ron Rivera, or not Ron Rivera, John Keim tweeted this out 30 seconds after we just talked about it. Running back Antonio Gibson said he's confident he'll play Sunday. Said when he hurt his shin against the Chiefs, it was more about the pain, but didn't feel that it had altered his play when he returned. So there you go. Gibson playing Sunday, I'd assume. But, yeah, we'll have to see how the run game works for Washington, because, as you said, they've been leaning on Heineke a lot more, and it kind of leads me to at least one of my next observations I'll be looking at. Can Taylor Heineke have a bounce-back game? I mean, since the Atlanta game where he did get lucky on a few plays, Heineke hasn't been that good. Wasn't great against, or was not good against the Chiefs, and definitely was not great against the Saints. So, I mean, Washington, they're in a tough spot, but if anything's going to happen, and with the running game banged up and with receivers banged up, they need something from Heineke, some kind of just freestyle play, excitability, what have it. But can Taylor Heineke bounce back and at least play a lot more of a safer game coming up?
I saw an interesting tweet on Twitter today, and it was like, screw it, just do trick plays. What else do we have to lose? And I think I'm like halfway in between saying heck no and halfway between saying heck yes to that. And I think the answer to that is just letting Taylor Heineke be himself. And when I've watched him over the last few weeks or so, it's clear that he's trying to keep himself healthy, which I'm sure is coming from the coaching staff, his size, the already injured Ryan Fitzpatrick at the position. They need him, and that's understandable. But I also see at times where I feel like he's trying to force the ball, and I've already said this before in multiple podcasts, but I feel like he's taken away his ability to run by doing that. And I think they need to open that playbook up a little bit more to him being able to use that frenetic energy that makes him the athlete that he is.
Flipping things on to the defense, I mean, at least for me, Sam, I don't know if you have any more observations you want to get into, but last one I'll be looking at is how many snaps does Jamin Davis play, and what does he look like when he plays? Because last week, a bit of a kind of lost in the shuffle of the Sean Taylor ceremony fiasco, the email scandal, the Congress getting involved with Washington. Just for the week that was, what got lost in the shuffle was the severe increase in snaps that Davis saw kind of out of nowhere. And we were very frustrated talking about how David Mayo got more snaps than him against the Saints. But this time, Mayo played about 50, 52, 53 snaps, I believe. And he actually led the team in tackles with 12. So that was surprising to me when looking over stuff in the Chiefs game last week. But was that just like, oh, we like how Davis matches up in this Chiefs game, or is Davis finally now kind of, they're saying we're putting you in the lineup. This is what we're, mistakes might happen, but we're putting you out there and we're going to let you grow.
I mean, if you're playing linebacker, you should be able to tackle. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Jamin Davis, but I feel like if you're on the field more and you're playing linebacker, you're probably going to get some more tackles. And I just think it's boiled down to giving him reps. And I still can't understand why they let him sit for so long, but it will be interesting to see if he can build off of that 10, 11 tackle total that he had last week, which is, it's great. You want to see that. Again, I'm not taking anything away from him, but he's a linebacker. He should be getting those tackles when he's playing. Let's see if he can make even more plays that justify him being a first-round pick. So, yeah, Jamin Davis, keeping him on the back burner, watching him this Sunday.
Key matchups for Washington. I think the first and most vital has to be double team, triple team. Just focus everything you can on Davante Adams. Wide receiver Davante Adams versus the Washington DBs. William Jackson has not been good this year. Kendall Fuller, not terrible, but disappointing. Landon Collins has been Landon Collins. Bobby McCain, not great either. So not a great Washington secondary at the moment, but you need, to me, if Green Bay is going to beat you, force Rodgers to use his other receivers that aren't Adams. I don't think any other Green Bay receiver that's not Adams has even more than 150 total receiving yards. Adams is, and he's almost got 700 to put things into perspective. Their offense, or at least passing game, runs through him. So if he beats you when you're triple teaming him, so be it, but focus your attention on him. Don't let him cook guys like Jackson and Fuller in one-on-one matchups, and let Rodgers pick apart those mismatches in the secondary.
I totally agree with that. If you shut those guys down, then you have a very good opportunity of winning. That brings me to my next point, and that is got to keep an eye on Aaron Jones out of the backfield as well. There has been times where he's had 3, 4, 5 touchdowns in games when Davante Adams has been shut down, when everyone's put all the attention on him. So can't forget Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. He's a massive talent. And also, don't let anybody get behind you. They got guys like Lazard who are very fast, and when Washington has put a lot of attention on bigger name players like Davante Adams, for instance, in the past, they've gotten cooked by the lesser known guys that you were talking about asking Aaron Rodgers to beat us with. So a couple other things that I would watch for.
Washington hasn't had a bad run defense this year. I'm not sure their actual statistic. And I also don't know if it's because teams just know how easy they can throw the ball on us that they don't run the ball, and so our run numbers look good. But run defense has not been terrible for the team this year. So if you can at least, limit Aaron Jones's impact and focus your entire secondary on Adams, then I kind of like how they stack up against the Packers offense, because no one else this year, I mean, who knows? Aaron Rodgers could just throw to Lazard or Valdez-Scantling or St. Brown or Amari Rodgers. One of the Randall Cobb, he's on the Packers too, could throw to one of those guys and have a great game. But if you focus your attention on Adams and you're able to minimize the impact of Jones, I like the defense's chances against Rodgers.
Like I said earlier, I believe that this is a slightly similar game to the Chiefs game last week, to where the opposing team can score very fast, and difference here is the Packers have a much better defense. Traveling up to Lambeau too is always a factor. It's a historical stadium, and the fans definitely come out to support that team. Um, I have a hard time seeing Washington getting on track against a team piloted by Aaron Rodgers. Defensively, for the Washington football team getting on track is what I'm trying to say. Um, I did see some good things against the Chiefs last week. I'm not sure if this announcement of Landon Collins to linebacker after him already playing a bunch of snaps there is going to make a difference at all. Um, I hate to be negative, but I'm just going to be realistic. I can't see Washington getting back on track this week. I think we might see some better play on both sides of the ball. And I think it will be closer than the Chiefs game. I think it'll be within 10 or 7 points. But I think Washington ultimately loses this one 31-24.
I think there's a very believable possibility where this game is closer than it should be, or maybe, Washington's level of play doesn't reflect the score margin. I think Green Bay is a beatable team. They're not, a dominant force in the NFC so far this season. But, it just comes down to the fact that I haven't seen anything from Washington this year to make me think that an upset's possible. Any given Sunday, of course, but like what adjustments, what trends, what kind of strong aspects of Washington's offensive or defensive game this year have we seen to make us believe that an upset is, realistically possible or probable, should I say. So I think, I agree Washington plays it a bit closer. I don't think they lose by as much as it won't necessarily feel like they lose by. Maybe Green Bay falls short on some drives or has some turnovers in the red zone or something like that. But I have Green Bay winning this game 30-20. Washington, unfortunately, dropping to 2-5.
Yeah, like you said, they really haven't given us anything this year to show us that they can pull off an upset. And until they do, I have to unfortunately keep betting against them. But, alas, the life of a Washington fan. And that's all we have for you this time, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Sam of WSH Football 365, and that was Jess joining me of HTTR.Nation. Both can be found on Instagram. Also can be found on Instagram is the podcast handle. That's at the BNG Review. That's at the letter BNG Review. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to our YouTube and be sure to follow us on all places where podcasts are streamed. Tune in next time as we break down the results of the Green Bay Packers versus Washington football game. Thanks so much for tuning in, and go football team.